The following podcast is brought to you by the Johners Podcasting Network, found exclusively at WrestlingWithJohners.com.
And welcome to another edition of This Week in History, wrestling fans. My name is Shawn. I'm in London, Ontario. After doing a lot of traveling from Windsor to Timmins, back to Windsor, and now back to London. Been a whirlwind of the past couple weeks. Foot surgery, you name it. It's been a crazy couple weeks. Not in the recliner anymore. It is Thursday afternoon when you're watching this. It is actually Tuesday evening as Jonesy and I are recording it. So I want to thank you for joining us, whether you're watching on Stitcher or listening on Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or anywhere else you get your podcasts from, and watching on YouTube or Facebook. As the opening just said, we are part of the Johners Podcasting Network. And if you go to your app store, you can get an actual app for the Johners Podcasting Network. And John has been busy getting a lot more content included. And we're up to now about 40 different shows from all over Canada, US, and UK. There's so much to enjoy, a lot of different interviews, reviews, you name it, news. It's all podcasts. If you're into podcasts, check out the Johners Podcasting Network. There's so much content, and you won't want to miss out on it. I'm hoping to get back to our content building up again. I'm going to still be off work, but we're keeping this tradition going of This Week in History. I'm hoping also to get the regular podcast back up and going with reviews of news. We also have the Scumbags Predictions League, which is brought to us by our friends over at Coolbet, along with this show and all our other shows, reminding you to stay cool and bet responsibly. We are starting the second part of our season on the quest for the championship, and it starts with All Out from AEW on September 5th. So everybody's starting back at zero, and you can always jump in at any time and get those points to try and go to the finals and win the championship belt. So there's a lot going on. We're hoping to get Fantasy Warfare Tournament back going again. Just been a crazy summer, COVID restrictions opening, surgeries, deaths, you name it. We're here to entertain as much as possible. And to do that, we're going to be doing This Week in History, the week of August 27th to September 2nd. And as I was going through this, it's basically a SummerSlam edition, but we can't do it until we bring in Jonesy from Niagara Falls. So after all that banter, how are you, Jonesy?
I'm pretty darn good. Went out to the falls today and just enjoyed a non-humid, gorgeous day.
Excellent. Yeah. Louisa and I were talking about it with everything that's been going on the last little bit. I get my stitches out on September 8th from the back of my heel, and it would be nice for us to be able to escape somewhere and just have a breather away from the chaos that has been our life for the last couple months. So Niagara is a little bit on our radar as one of our potential destinations. Be nice to check it out if we don't go to maybe Collingwood and Blue Mountain area for the Scandinavian spa there. But it's in our list of possibles to do. But it sounds like it's a wonderful time in Niagara Falls.
And they just started putting the lights up in Dufferin Island there.
Oh yeah, for Winter Festival Lights, which starts I think
in about 2 months.
Yeah, in November usually. So yeah, that's cool. Definitely explore Ontario, as they say, yours to discover. And Winter Festival Lights in Niagara Falls is something that is definitely worth checking out. So let's hit the history books and the rich history of our great sport, quoting Mr. Tony Schiavone, and hit the road with SummerSlam 1990, one of my favorites.
On August 27th, 31 years ago, of course, SummerSlam 1990 from the Spectrum in Philly happened. We saw the Texas Tornado defeat Mr. Perfect to win the WWF IC Championship. Brutus the Barber Beefcake was originally scheduled to challenge for the title but he was injured after a parasail to the face. Kind of screwed up his wrestling career a bit, but because of Hogan, he got to stay employed. The Hart Foundation, Bret Hart and Jim Neidhart, defeated Demolition, Smash, and Crush in a 2-1 in a best-of-3 falls match to win the WWF Tag Team Championship. Randy Savage defeated Dusty Rhodes in under 2 minutes, and before the match, the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, would reveal he had bought Rhodes' sidekick, Sweet Sapphire. What a shock. Hulk Hogan defeated Earthquake. Earthquake would take quite the bump in this one, including a nice welt on his back. And the Ultimate Warrior defeated Rick Rude in a pretty good steel cage match to retain the WWF Championship. And if I remember, that was the last pay-per-view that Jesse the Body did for the WWF as far as full-time.
Yeah, he headed over to WCW. And just looking at this card, like, I don't know what it was about the early versions of SummerSlam. It did feel special. Maybe it was the production compared to it being always like how the TV looked. And today's shows, Raw and SmackDown and pay-per-views, almost all look the same and have the same feel. It was a different feel in the first couple of editions of SummerSlam. And then, as you said, Beefcake got the knee to the face and destroyed his face and the plates in his melon. Tornado was able to pick up on that. Meanwhile, Tornado was wrestling with 1 foot at that time. The Hart Foundation and the Demolition, I love Demolition always, even as they became a heel team and the 3-man team that way. But it was also a way of getting in the Road Warriors at the time, which helped reveal that Axe was down there. So the tag team scene was really hot at that time in WWE, unlike is now. It's lame and really spread out between all the brands. Savage and Rhodes turning Dusty into the match, the feud with DiBiase. You don't see that too often where they overlap and you see where they're going off before. Storytelling was just so rich at that time. Hogan and Earthquake. It was interesting how Hogan, even though he wasn't champion, was part of the double main event. All right. And same thing with at 91 when we talked about last week. It was double main event with Savage and Elizabeth in one and Hogan and Warrior in the other main event because he couldn't give away the spotlight of the main event. And of course, Warrior and Rude. Rude was one of the only guys who could give Warrior a good match. Savage was one of the other ones. But yeah, top to bottom, I think 90 is one of the better SummerSlams of all time.
27 years ago, Shane Douglas made his historic in-ring promo, throwing down the NWA belt. Yeah, get rid of that thing. Blah. And declared himself the ECW World Champion.
Well, that also changed Eastern Championship Wrestling, which was ECW, into Extreme Championship Wrestling. So it was a monumental moment for the company changing its name as well, and also getting away from the NWA.
Indeed it was. As always, you were correct. 26 years ago, WWF presented SummerSlam 95 from the SICK Arena in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Birds of Fay defeated Alundra Blaze to win the WWF Women's Championship. The Undertaker defeated Kama in it was a pretty bad casket match, in my opinion. Mind you, Kama's antics and bug eyes is always a pleaser. Bret Hart defeated Isaac Yankem by DQ. Shawn Michaels defeated Razor Ramon in a ladder match to retain the WWF IC belt. And Diesel defeated King Mabel, that's right, that was the main event, to retain the WWF Championship.
Yeah, as much as I just praised 1990 for being such an amazing event, this one just stunk up the joint. Like the Shawn Michaels Razor Ramon match was the only saving grace really of this whole thing. And even that was supposed to be Shawn Michaels against Sid. And they realized nobody wants to see that shit. And quickly changed it to a rematch from WrestleMania 10. Ladder match. That was the first time they used 2 ladders in a ladder match and stuff like that. Since then, they're just unlimited. But it was
their budget has become bigger. They can afford more ladders.
Exactly. So, that was the only saving grace of this thing. And then when you realize also in hindsight, Lex Luger came down to help out Diesel, which was still questionable whether he was helping him or not. If you listen to the commentary and then you realize, he is helping him, but he gets hit by Diesel. And basically, he just got Randy Ortoned by people in a way. How everybody Randy Orton hits goes to AEW. Diesel hit Lex Luger and sent him off to WCW for the premiere of Nitro just a few days later.
Yep, sure did. 21 years ago, Wwf presented SummerSlam 2000. Eddie Guerrero and Chyna defeated Val Venus and Trish Stratus in a mixed tag match. Chyna won the WWF IC belt because of the rules within the match. Steve Blackman defeated Shane McMahon to win the WWF Hardcore Championship. Edge and Christian defeated the Dudleys and the Hardy Boys in a tables, ladders, and chairs match to win the WWF Tag Team Championship. This would be the first of the series of TLC matches that would become part of hardcore history. The Cat defeated Terry Runnels in a stink face match. Now, at the end of that, did they get their face shoved in Rikishi's bum? And I didn't.
No, that was to each other.
Oh, to each other.
Yeah.
I don't think that's much of a punishment, but hey. The Undertaker and Kane fought to a no contest. The Rock defeated Triple H and Kurt Angle in a triple threat match to retain the WWF Championship. Angle was out for much of the match as he suffered a concussion due to an announce table collapsing as Triple H went to do the pedigree angle.
Yeah, there's one of the recent episodes of the Kurt Angle show, which is on with Conrad Thompson. They talked about that, and he basically was knocked silly for that. The Shane McMahon, Steve Blackman one is memorable for the fact that Shane climbed the trestle and Blackman hit him a couple times with the kendo stick, and then Shane took the nasty plunge into the staging. But definitely a way better effort in 2000 than in 1995.
Yes. 2,000 years ago on Raw is War from Grand Rapids, Michigan, the Hurricane defeated Matt Hardy to win the WWF European Championship.
I do believe it's 20 years ago, not 2000.
Oh, yeah, it probably was. I forgot to add years there. It might even be 21. So
it's all good. It is.
I'm just going to put here, check date. And when it comes rolling around again, blam. 12 years ago, Dixie Carter makes her television debut on TNA Impact. And 11 years ago, Gertrude Elizabeth Luna Vashon was found dead at her home in Pasco County, Florida. She was only 48. She is buried at the ranch once owned by Andre the Giant.
Yeah, and she had been married to Gangrel at one point.
Yes.
And as you see in this picture, they did do a Where Are They Now just before she passed away. And she was driving tow truck.
I could definitely see that. And it's a happy 73rd birthday to the Sarge, Robert Remus, a.k.a. Sergeant Slaughter.
A turn hook. You puke.
You stole my line. August 28th. 35 years ago in Los Angeles, Wahoo McDaniel defeated Tully Blanchard to win the NWA National Heavyweight Championship. 32 years ago, WWF presented SummerSlam 89. The Brainbusters, Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard defeated the Hart Foundation, Bret Hart and Jim Neidhart. Also on the card, Dusty Rhodes defeated the Honky Tonk Man. The Ultimate Warrior defeated Rick Rude to win the WWF IC belt. And Hulk Hogan and Brutus, the Barber Beefcake, defeated Randy Savage and Zeus.
Yeah, this was the official return also of Roddy Piper to WWE as an active wrestler. We'd seen him at WrestleMania doing Piper's Pit, but in the Warrior Rude match, Piper came down and ended up mooning Rude, which distracted him, and that's how Warrior got the title back.
Nice. And that poster you have up, that poster board I have, except the only difference on mine, I don't think it has the 8 p.m. Eastern on it.
Yeah, you have it on your wall.
Yeah, I have it done. I had it on the wall because I've moved so many times in the last year. I could find it if I ran to the bedroom, but I ain't doing that. 32 years ago, WWF presented SummerSlam 89, which I already did. So 27 years ago in Indianapolis, Indiana, Shawn Michaels and Diesel defeated the Head Shrinkers to win the WWF Tag Team Championship. Looking cool as always.
Two dudes with attitude, and it was kind of a surprise.
They weren't my favorites, but it worked back then.
It was surprising as well because this was a house show just a day or two before SummerSlam, and the Head Shrinkers I think were supposed to go against Bam Bam and Tatanka or something like that at the pay-per-view, or I'm not sure. It could have been even no, it wasn't Money Inc. But yeah, they were supposed to defend their titles, and lo and behold, they dropped them the day before.
Yeah, and I want to say there was a reason for that.
Yeah, I'm
Anyways,
not sure.
21 years ago on Nitro, Kevin Nash was there too. Kevin Nash defeated Booker T to win the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. 18 years ago in Osaka, Japan, in a steel cage match for the first time in New Japan Pro Wrestling history, Yasuhito Takayama defeated Masahiro Chono by knockout to win the IWGP Heavyweight Championship.
Yeah, I tried to find a photo of that, but no such luck. But definitely have Takayama photo of him.
Nice. You say that nice. 14 years ago at a SmackDown taping, Matt Hardy and MVP defeated Deuce and Domino to win the WWE Tag Team Championship. And it's a happy 43rd birthday to Linda Miles. She was one of two of the winners from the second season of Tough Enough. She'd spend some time in OVW, briefly managed Shelton Benjamin in WWE, would leave, then return in 2003 as Shaniqua, the dominatrix manager of the Vashon brothers.
Yeah, totally somebody who was not in her right element doing that role. It was very awkward, not only just the whole gimmick itself being on TV, because they had the ball and gags and all that with the Vashons, but she just did not seem like she was in a comfort zone for herself. She came from the basketball world. From what I was looking at when trying to find a picture, which was hard to do without having the Vashons in it, she looks like she returned to basketball, but she's doing reffing and stuff like that. So
nice.
Definitely out of the wrestling world.
Mm-hmm. August 29th, 39 years ago in St. Paul, Minnesota, Otto Wance defeated Nick Bockwinkel to win the AWA World Heavyweight Championship. Man, that guy's thick. 33 years ago, that didn't sound good at all. 33 years ago, WWF presented the first SummerSlam from Madison Square Garden. SummerSlam would air on the last Monday in August for each of the first 7 years. Rick Rude would defeat the Junkyard Dog. The Ultimate Warrior defeated the Honky Tonk Man in just 31 seconds in a shitty match. Even shitty for the Honky Tonk Man to win the WWF IC belt. That's right. Who can do a shittier match with someone than the Honky Tonk Man? Honky Tonk Man with the Ultimate Warrior. Demolition, Smash, and Axe defeated the Hart Foundation to retain the WWF Tag Team belts. And the Mega Powers, Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage, defeated the Mega Bucks, Ted DiBiase and Andre the Giant. And Jesse the Body Ventura was the special referee. And something else happened during that match that most of the fellows liked.
Yeah, that was the moment where the Mega Bucks had the Mega Powers down, and they were on the outside and needed a distraction. Next thing you know, Elizabeth gets up there and just unzipped her skirt and took it off, and she revealed that she was wearing some. Basically, it was a bikini bottoms, but red bikini bottoms that went with her red, yellow dress. It was somewhat like Belle from Beauty and the Beast, that sort of color.
Oh, yeah.
But she took that off, and everybody was stunned, and she tossed the skirt at DiBiase, and that was happening on the one side of the ring. And then on the other side, the camera caught Hogan and Savage coming up slowly and then seeing what happened and doing the Mega Powers handshake and then getting back in there and getting the victory. And Jesse was not going to do the full count, and he came down with 2 and went up for 3, and Savage had to throw his hand down to get the 3 count. And then, unfortunately, at the same time, that was where the seeds were being planted, because Hogan picked up Elizabeth and hugged her, and then I'm not sure if it was that one or if it was Survivor Series, but when Savage had her up on his shoulder, Hogan's hand went a little bit near the backside of Elizabeth, and the seeds were planted of jealousy, and you got lust in your eyes.
Yeah, it was a bad time there. Though I find it funny that Macho Man didn't have a problem with Elizabeth showing her tush for one of the first times, but yet the jealousy.
Yeah, and this also was another edition of SummerSlam prior to 1990, where Beefcake was supposed to be challenging for the Intercontinental Championship, but was injured, and the guy who replaced him took the title because Warrior came in and destroyed Honky, which was really bad if you go back and watch it, because he got the shoulder block, and then Honky's like changing himself from this direction to that one to take the splash, just so that the hard camera side gets Warrior getting the pinfall. Like you said, it was trash. But another time that Beefcake missed out on the IC title.
Here's the SummerSlam that was held at Wembley Stadium in London, England, 29 years ago. Was SummerSlam 92. Now, it was reported on where I got this information that there was over 80,000 people there. No, there wasn't. There were 60,000 people there. There was lots of empty seats up in the high spots. I remember it was a bit of a disappointment because they were going, trying to go back to a big, huge outdoor arena, and they did not sell out. And the event wouldn't actually air in the United States until 2 days later. The Legion of Doom with Rocco defeated Money Inc., and that was a terrible match, mostly because of the beginning. I'm sorry, when they came back, it was great to see them back competing again in the WWF, but when they brought out that Rocco puppet, I like puppets, but that Rocco puppet was just a terrible idea.
Rocco wasn't even really the bad part of it, because Rocco rode on the front of the motorcycle that Ellering did and all that. So, yes, that was ridiculous, but making the LOD kid-friendly by adding Rocco. But the worst part of it, and I believe you can go back to the whole Dark Side of the Ring, where they talked about the Road Warriors. Actually, Hawk was quite inebriated doing that, and he stumbled around. Like, if you pay attention to what Hawk was doing, it's just very sad what was going on. But this was actually a pretty good event. As I said, it started off with LOD against Money Inc., and then, of course, closed out with the Intercontinental title. And, of course, you had Demolition members, Crush and Repo Man, or Smash, against each other. Shawn Michaels and Rick Martel vowing not to hit each other in the face because Sherry liked them both. And they're both
the amount of times Sherry gets dropped.
Yeah, she got dropped so many times and faked being passed out because they were about to hit each other in the face.
And that was one of the first, on pay-per-view in a long time that they had a good guy versus a bad guy versus a bad guy.
Yeah, you don't really see heel against heel. You do see face against face, and that's what they had in the co-main event, but that was in the mini middle part with Savage and Warrior, but they had also planted seeds of who was going to turn on the other one and align themselves with Ric Flair and Kurt Hennig.
Yeah, the whole thing was a ruse.
Yep. I'll let you continue talking about the whole card, though.
Oh, the rest of the matches, I'm not sure where he even left off.
Well,
Probably Shawn Michaels fought Rick Martel to double count out. The Ultimate Warrior defeated Randy Savage by count out, which kind of sucks. The match, though, itself is decent, but it's not even close to the WrestleMania 7 match. The Undertaker defeated Kamala by DQ, and the British Bulldog defeated Bret Hart to win the WWF IC belt in a pretty good match.
Yeah, Bulldog.
And I say pretty good because, yes, it's a great match, especially if you appreciate the wrestling. For me, it was a good match, but neither guy was a big enough name, in my opinion, to, at that time, be the main event.
I think it was a great match that was technically sound. There was also the botch part where Davey didn't catch Bret, and when he went over the top rope, and Davey's bent backwards. But they used almost every technical move known at the time. So that way made it a spectacle in itself. And, they had to give Davey, the home country guy, the main event spot. But, yeah, I also was going to say that with Taker and Kamala, I loved Kamala's expressions every time they did the whole, even the lead up to the casket match. And then I think there's a Coliseum home video exclusive where they open up the casket after the whole thing is done, the event, and he's just like,
I do remember that.
Yeah, so Kamala was awesome. Rest in peace, man.
And we move on to 27 years ago. We got Wwe Presented SummerSlam 94. In that, we had Leonard Blaze defeat Bull Nakano to retain the WWF Women's Championship. Razor Ramon defeated Diesel to win the WWF IC belt. Bret the Hitman Hart defeated Owen Hart in a spectacular steel cage match to retain the WWF Championship. And that also marked the return of Davey Boy Smith, who was at ringside for that. He turned bad in that. No, he didn't turn bad. I can't remember now.
No, he didn't turn bad.
No, he saved. He climbed, and saved. I forget which one he turned bad at.
He saved Bret because Owen had Neidhart. But
That's right.
eventually Davey did turn and side with Owen as well.
And we had the Undertaker versus the Underfaker. And, of course, the original Undertaker, Paul Bear's Taker, defeated DiBiase's The Undertaker, who was played by
Chains or Brian Lee.
That's it.
And of course, we had the Tatanka turning his back on Lex Luger because he thought Lex was going to sell out to the $1 Million Man, and it was actually him that sold out to the $1 Million Man. And we had those skits with George Kennedy and Leslie Nielsen throughout the show as they were trying to find Undertaker, but we can tell
which now seems silly because last week on History we learned that they did a house show that the Undertaker was at a week before. So he was out there. They just weren't looking very well.
And you could tell the difference between the two Undertakers because the one wore gray and the original one changed to purple on his return and being more of a face.
All right, and we're in 21 years ago at a SmackDown taping in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Al Snow defeated Perry Saturn by submission to capture the WWF European Championship. 15 years ago. Sorry,
Al had a lot of fun with that European Championship, as you see in the graphic that I have here. At least 8 different times he dressed up to represent some part of Europe, and also decorated head to represent them as well.
Good old head. Uh, 15 years ago, also at a SmackDown taping in Reading, Pennsylvania, Mr. Kennedy defeated Finlay and Bobby Lashley in a triple threat match to win the WWE United States Championship.
Kennedy.
Hey, it's a happy 72nd birthday today to John Stanley Hansen II, a.k.a. the Lariat Stan Hansen. He was born in Knox City, Texas. Hansen debuted in 1973. However, at first it was to only be a part-time gig as he was trying out for the Detroit Wheels of the World Football League. Hansen is married and has two sons, both college baseball players. His older son, Shaver, was drafted in the 6th round of the 2009 MLB draft.
And you never wanted to get hit with his lariat because you never knew if it was going to get you in the chest, the neck, the face, because he didn't even know where it was going to get you because he was blind as a bat.
Blind as a bat. That's right, he was blind as a bat. August 30th, 52 years ago in Chicago, Illinois, Mad Dog Vashon. Mad Dog Vashon. And Butcher Vashon defeated the Crusher and Dick the Bruiser to win the AWA World Tag Team Championship. And wow, that's a lot of chest hair going on. 28 years ago, the Lex Express rolled into SummerSlam 93 from the Palace in Auburn Hills, Michigan. In a dark match, Owen Hart defeated Barry Horowitz. Just 1 little year later, Owen would be in the main event at SummerSlam 94. What a jump from 1 year ago. Razor Ramon defeated Ted DiBiase. The bout was DiBiase's final WWF match. The Steiner brothers defeated the Heavenly Bodies, consisting of Tom Pritchard and Jimmy Del Rey, to retain the WWF Tag Team Championship. Bret Hart would defeat Doink the Clown by DQ. It was a decent match, but really, Doink. Jerry Lawler defeated Bret Hart by DQ. Hart had won the match via submission, but refused to release the hold post-match, and the decision was reversed.
Yeah, Bret had some rough SummerSlams in 93 and 95.
The fact that he had to wrestle Doink, and then I forgot about that. And Ludwig Borga defeated Marty Jannetty. The Undertaker defeated Giant Gonzalez in a Rest in Peace match. That's right, after their horrible match at WrestleMania, they had another one. And Lex Luger defeated Yokozuna by countout in a WWF Championship match. Yokozuna retained the title, and who knows what happened to the Lex Express.
I think he got turned into DX Express and got blown up by Steve Austin.
Could have been. 28 years ago at a WCW Saturday Night taping, Dusty Rhodes defeated Ravishing Rick Rude to win the NWA WCW United States Championship. 23 years ago, WWF presented yet another SummerSlam 98. It saw D'Lo Brown defeat Val Venus via DQ to retain the European Championship. X-Pac defeated Jeff Jarrett in a hair versus hair match. Ken Shamrock defeated Owen Hart via submission in a kind of cool looking Lions Den match with an ankle lock. The New Age Outlaws defeated Mankind in a Falls Count Anywhere handicap match to win the WWF Tag Team Championship. Mankind's partner Kane wasn't there during the match, but showed up in a dumpster afterwards and nailed Mankind with a sledgehammer. Triple H defeated The Rock in a ladder match to win the WWF IC belt. And Stone Cold Steve Austin defeated The Undertaker to retain the WWF Championship. But I remember that ladder match was a little bit of a clunker.
It wasn't too bad, I didn't think. And it definitely set the tone with the fact that Rock and Triple H were quite the rivalry with them.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But a ladder, I don't think they needed the ladder.
No. It definitely was a little bit different. And this was, I think, when Triple H was still he was getting into DX. He was DX by that time. So, yeah, he was just recently leader of DX. So they were climbing up and getting into the top 7-ish main eventers for WWE and proved themselves in that match.
All right, 12 years ago, Walter Killer Kowalski died days after he was taken off life support following a heart attack he suffered earlier in the month. He was 81. He, of course, had many future stars roll through his wrestling school over the years. Some of them were Triple H, Chyna, Perry Saturn, John Kronos, Big John Studd, April Hunter, Christopher Nowinski, Brittany Brown, Eddie Edwards, Frankie Kazarian, Damian Sandow, and Fandango. He was a vegetarian who didn't drink or smoke, nor would he drive with wrestlers who smoked, and a lifetime bachelor, though Kowalski did end up married at the age of 79 in 2006. See, he got married and then he died. Poor guy.
Well, he definitely set an example in that regards as far as how he didn't touch any substances and how he ate. It definitely rubbed off.
Edge.
Yeah, it definitely rubbed off on that guy like Triple H, because Triple H doesn't drink or smoke and everything, and he was one of the reasons why they also brought him into DX, or the Clique, should I say, because everybody else did, and they needed somebody straight to hang out with and love the wrestling business as much as they did, but could also get them from point A to B.
Yes. Definitely need that. 22 years ago on Raw's War from Boston, Massachusetts, Mankind and The Rock defeated the Unholy Alliance, Undertaker and Big Slow, to win the WWF Tag Team Championship. It would be Mankind's 5th tag team title win. August 31st, 53 years ago in Bloomington, Minnesota, Vern Gagne defeated Mr. X to win the AWA World Heavyweight Championship for the 9th time. Gagne's 9th reign would be his longest, as he would hold the championship uninterrupted for more than 7 years, losing the title to Nip Bockwinkel in November of 1975. 35 years ago in Tokyo, Japan, Terry Funk calls it a career for the first time. In his first final match ever, Terry Funk and his father, Dory Funk Jr., defeated Stan Hansen and Terry Gordy. Wow, 35 years ago, his first retirement match. That's awesome. 34 years ago, Jerry Lawler defeats Don Bass in a hair versus hair title match to win the AWA Southern Heavyweight Championship for only the 50th time.
Only.
26 years ago, both the British Bulldog and King Kong Bundy returned to the WWF at a Superstar taping. 24 years ago in Yokohama, Japan, Kensuke Sasaki defeated Shinya Hashimoto to win the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. The end wins Hashimoto's 489-day reign as AWGP Heavyweight Champion, the longest in the history of New Japan Pro Wrestling. 19 years ago in Dover, Delaware, Wife Beater defeated Nick Mondo in a 200 light tubes barbed wire salt match to win the first ever CZW Tournament of Death. Wife Beater also defeated Nick Gage in a Panels of Glass match and Necro Butcher in a Staple Guns Fall Count Anywhere match. Other participants included John Zandig, Nate Hatred, The Messiah, Nick Mondo, Homeless Jimmy, Toby Keith Klein, and Adam Flash.
What a list of misfits.
Nice. Good old Homeless Jimmy. John Zandig, that's a guy that can really give it to people and take abuse. 11 years ago, Cabal is the winner of NXT Season 2. With his win, he earned a championship match on pay-per-view. Michael McKillicuddy, known today as Chris Axel, finished second, while Alex Riley finished third.
Yeah, that season was quite interesting because some of the mentors with Eli Cottonwood and John Morrison, God only knows where Cottonwood is now. He's out of there. He had to cut a promo on Mustache, and it was just horrible. Nobody knows where Lucky Cannon probably is anymore, and he was with Mark Henry. Alex Riley and The Miz, they end up hating each other, I think, in real life. Titus O'Neil is still around, but his mentor, Zack Ryder's gone. Percy Watson left and came back as a commentary for NXT and left again. He was with MVP. And, of course, who could forget Husky Harris, who was with Cody Rhodes. And Husky became good old Bray Wyatt, and then The Fiend. And a lot more tattoos compared to what he had as Husky Harris. And, of course, he got renamed or honored, I guess, somehow with the puppet Huskus the Pig as part of the Firefly Funhouse. And
Huskus the Pig.
Yeah, and Caval was with Michelle McCool and Layla, and the guy's ego was bigger than what needed to happen. He got given the win, but he didn't like the fact that he was put with two females after being a world traveler and a lot more experience than given credit for. And yeah, his ego was the downfall of his WWE career. And I don't think many other people want him around in their organizations anyways today.
And it's a happy 42nd birthday to Mickey Laurie James Eldest, a.k.a. Mickey James. James, of course, married Nick Aldis last year on New Year's Eve.
That's a few years ago for that one. But, yeah, Mickey James.
New Year's
just
Day.
actually.
Say it's daytime.
Yeah.
Well, I believe you over what the internet tells me.
Mickey James just recently actually put together the NWA's first all-women's pay-per-view this past weekend with Empower, and then she was also on the 73rd anniversary of the NWA pay-per-view that happened on Sunday, where unfortunately her husband, Nick Aldis, dropped the title after over 1,040 plus days of champion. After winning it from Cody at NWA's 70th anniversary event.
And who did he lose it to?
He lost it to he was for WWE. I can't remember at the moment.
All right. Well, we'll perhaps come back to that. Moving on, we're into September. 42 years ago, September 1st, the WWF introduces the Intercontinental Heavyweight Championship with Pat Patterson as its first champion, having won a kayfabe tournament in Rio de Janeiro. The backstory is Patterson defeated Ted DiBiase to win the WWF North American Championship back in June, and that belt would be repackaged as the IC belt.
Yeah, so as you see here, all the different incarnations of what the title looked like up until today, where the latest incarnation was done in 2019. So yeah, a lot of different things going on with that title. I think my favorite is, the 85 to 97 and the 2011 to 19, which are basically the same looking belt. Just different leather is definitely my favorite version of the championship. And to go back quickly to who Nick Aldis lost the title to, it was former WWE superstar Trevor Murdoch.
Oh, there you go. Nice. I'm glad to see him get that. 31 years ago, wrestling got a little too real for the people in Memphis. During their Saturday night morning wrestling broadcast on WMC TV in Memphis, Eddie Gilbert hit Jerry Lawler with Doug Gilbert's car in the parking lot outside the studio. The collision caused Lawler to suffer a bruised hip after he rolled over the hood of the car. The angle was so real for some viewers, cops were called to the WMC studios. Lawler had to return later in the show to ensure authorities that he was okay.
Yeah, I tried to get a GIF of that to put up here like we had with Shane Douglas throwing down the title, and unfortunately that was too big to load up, but he takes quite the role. You can find it on YouTube, and he gets hit, and he goes up and over the hood and onto the roof, and then goes down to the ground. And yeah, Jerry took quite the role. Don't blame people for possibly calling the police on this one. Unlike when people called the police on the NWO invasion, which looked a lot less threatening than Lawler being run over.
So it's one of the better hit and runs in wrestling history.
Oh, yeah. Plus, well, when you're doing it in Lawler's hometown, I believe that was, he's almost the mayor without being mayor. Somebody's going to be like, oh, my God.
No. 41 years ago in Charlotte, North Carolina, Jimmy Snuka defeated Ricky Steamboat to win the vacated NWA United States Championship, the Mid-Atlantic version. 29 years ago at a WWF Superstars taping in Hershey, Pennsylvania, Ric Flair would defeat the Macho Man Randy Savage to capture the WWF Championship. The match shown on Prime Wrestling 13 days later was actually a redo match. The first take of the match was stopped due to Vince McMahon being dissatisfied with the start of the match. 14 years ago in Bayamon, Puerto Rico, Adam Pearce defeated Brent Albright to win the vacated NWA World Heavyweight Championship. The title was vacated when NWA ended its partnership with TNA earlier that summer. 14 years ago on ECW on Sci-Fi, CM Punk defeated John Morrison to win the ECW Championship. 11 years ago at a SmackDown taping in Cleveland, Ohio, John Morrison defeated Rey Mysterio to win the WWE IC belt. And he used that kick to finish him, I believe. That's kind of like that kick's kind of like a shit. I'm trying to think. There's a few video games that have that kick just like that. It would have been the 68th birthday to Theodore James Petty. Petty, a graduate of Rutgers University with a degree in nutrition. Petty began wrestling in 1978 as the Cheetah Kid. After a brief boxing career, he wrestled as Colonel de Klerk for the NWA in 1990. In 93, he'd be paired with Michael Durham, and they'd become the Public Enemy. Durham as Johnny Grunge and Petty as Flyboy Rock'll Rock. And both, of course, Public Enemy became a staple in both ECW and WCW. It's too bad, but both of those guys are now deceased.
Yeah, and they didn't have a good run in WWE.
No, they did not.
Their unfortunate egos, once again, somebody with ego issues, got the better of them, and Farouk and Bradshaw put them in their place and sent them packing.
Yep. September 2nd, 29 years ago, WCW presented Clash of the Champions 20. The show commemorated, that's better, 20 years of 20 shows of the Clash of the Champions, and it's I can't even 20 years on TBS. How about that? The special guests included former WWF Championship Bruno Sammartino, and in his last American television appearance, Andre the Giant. Andre would die just 5 months later. And on the show, Ricky Steamboat defeated Steve Austin in a no DQ match to win the WCW World Television Championship.
Awesome match. Those guys could tear it up all the time. I enjoyed Steamboat and Austin.
You sure did. 19 years ago on Raw from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Triple H is awarded the World Heavyweight Championship, a.k.a. the old WCW World Belt. Triple H was awarded the belt after becoming the number one contender winning that match for the undisputed WWE Championship after defeating The Undertaker a week previous. Triple H would defend the World Heavyweight belt that night against Ric Flair.
Yeah, originally they were just going to have the Undisputed Championship, and they made the new belt after Jericho was carrying around both belts. Brock Lesnar had it, and I think he was going back and forth just briefly between Raw and SmackDown. And then all of a sudden, they just decided, Brock is going to just be on SmackDown. And so Eric Bischoff decided we need a champion for Raw. And that's when they whipped out the old WCW title and presented it to Triple H.
And finally, to end it all off, 14 years ago at a Raw taping, Jeff Hardy defeats Umaga to win the WWE IC belt. Umaga lost the belt due to violating the WWE wellness policy. Just 6 months later, Hardy would lose the IC belt, also due to breaking the wellness policy.
I love it.
And that is the end of This Week in Wrestling History, which, of course, is compiled from the vast land of Google, Wikipedia, CagesideSeats.com, and most importantly, from fans and journalists that had front row seats to history. And, of course, a big thank you to our sponsor, Coolbet, Coolbet.com, and sportsbook betting and casino games. Stay cool and bet responsibly.
Yeah, we always want to thank Coolbet for everything they do with us. And also want to quickly remind you, this Labor Day weekend is the last time you can get the Raw's War version of our Scumbags of Wrestling t-shirts at ProWrestlingTees.com/Scumbags Wrestling. And so last chance to get that for a little while. I'm going to archive it and put somebody else in there. And also, you can always get the Ontario Indie Comic Book cover tribute one, 22 stars on the Ontario indie scene, and the money raised from that are going to Stevens Wrestling Journey, Curie Malformation Research at Sick Kids Hospital in Toronto. So go to our store at ProWrestlingTees.com/Scumbags Wrestling to get those shirts while they're available. As I said at the beginning, this was heavily a SummerSlam show, which is not a bad thing. I love SummerSlam. Definitely one of those tentpole events. And a couple stinkers in there, like 95, but always a great one, like you saw in 1990, and a couple of the earlier ones as well.
Your sound went weird. Yeah, your sound's gone weird. A bunch of clicking.
So, yeah, we want to thank you for being a part of this, and we'll see you next week.